Hey guys! Alright, so I left off last time actually about where we were in the IVF process and that we had implanted our donor embryos and we were waiting to see what was gonna happen. And so we waited our 2 weeks, and during that time I did not feel pregnant. I know I just came off of losing the triplets and I felt really pregnant, very sick, and so I didn't know if it was just because I was pregnant with triplets I would feel different, and you hear every pregnancy is different, and so I just expected to feel more blah, I guess you could say, and I did not. And so I was not surprised to find out that the donor embryos did not take. It was a definite life changer. I knew at that point that we were going to have to go a different route, because the day that I went in to figure out our game plan, we thought we purchased 6 embryos and 1 had not made it, so there was 5. We ended up finding out that day that we only purchased 3 donor embryos, and we were told the wrong number, and then 1 had not made it, so that made 2, and I had the 2 implanted. So I was very angry, and I just remember thinking, why would I have picked a profile with 3 embryos when I could have picked a profile with 15 and froze all of them? And so I was pretty hot, you could say, that day. And I just remember they kept apologizing. They said that the lady who went over them with me was not up to date on all of that, and the lady who usually does it was not in that day. So they were doing their best. I was pretty upset, so they took quite a bit of money off of our account that we had been paying on there through our IVF journey, and I was happy with that, but I guess I was just more upset at the fact that in my mind I thought we would have 2 chances to try and conceive with the donor embryos, and now we did not have any more chances. And so I just thought, what are we gonna do now? And it kind of slammed me into the grieving process all over again, like, oh, we're done, I'm never gonna be pregnant. And I just did not know how to handle that. And I did search for a support group in my area, and I did not find a local support group. And I did go online, but I did not connect with anybody in my area like I was hoping to. So I got really, really discouraged. And so after my husband and I spoke, we decided to go the route of trying to adopt through foster care. And we also wanted to try a couple of different adoption places, but we knew that financially we were strapped because of what we had just put all of our money towards. And we were also in the process of buying a bigger home because we thought that if we kept doing IVF we would probably end up with multiples. So in our mindset, we wanted a bigger home. We didn't want to live in the city anymore because we both grew up in the country, and that was just a first home, a good first home for us, but we were ready to move on. So we ended up finding the perfect home. We're in the process of buying that. We ended up getting our foster care license, and we were starting to raise money for our adoption. And so I was getting pretty excited as we finally got our home. We were fixing that up. We were just awaiting on a call through our foster care group, and I was just so excited. We did get a couple phone calls and they fell through. They would call us and be like, well, if family doesn't pop up, or there might be another dad, and if that person is the dad and tests positive with this baby, then their family can step in. And most of the time with foster care, family does step in. And so that was tough, but I just knew that there was a child for us, and that, you know, when we got that phone call and, you know, it finally worked out for us. It ended up being the third or the fourth phone call that ended up finally being the children that came to live with us. So let me tell you a little bit about that. When we got the phone call, the little boy just turned 3, and the mother just had a newborn baby, and she was only a couple days old. So we were going to we had him for about a week because the baby was in the NICU before we could go pick her up. So we did get to introduce them to each other. He did have some major issues once she came home, so that was really tough to deal with. I mean, I did expect some issues, but I did not expect and was not prepared for what was to come. So I had them for about 2 months. I say I meant we. My husband, he worked a lot, he still does, and so I was with him a lot during the day, but he definitely helped out a lot when he was home, so we had them a lot. So we had them for about 2 months, and it was just a very stressful time, and I knew in my heart that it probably was not going to work out because they started getting more visits. It went from like 1 visit a week to 3 visits a week, and then they started going to the cousins because the cousin thought she might want to take them, and then they started doing overnights at the cousins, and the cousin did end up getting them. And a couple months after that, I ran into the mother, and she told me that she had gotten her children back, which I was very happy for her, and I hope that it works out. It was just a really sad situation, and it was probably one of the toughest, because I mean, it was harder to bond with him because he would constantly ask for family. But with the baby, going and picking her up from the hospital and feeling like she was your own, you know, and that she's yours, that was really, really hard. I mean, don't get me wrong, both of them leaving was very, very hard. But it definitely was a lot harder with the baby because I bonded with her a lot better. And so that was really, really hard. That was a lot harder for my husband, surprisingly, because he did not have his guard up at all. He did not expect them to go back. And I just remember their, you know, caseworker telling us, you thought you were going to adopt these kids. That's a very, very slim chance that you would ever get that opportunity. She's like, a lot of kids in the foster care system, she's like, either keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and never get adopted until they, you know, time out of the system or end up back with the parents because they're given numerous opportunities. And at that point, they just have so many issues that nobody wants to take them, which is really sad, or they time out of the system, which is also very sad. And so she talked to us a little bit about going the adoption route, and finding grants for that, we would probably have better luck than trying to adopt through the foster care system. So I was very discouraged, and so was my husband. My husband at that point did not want to take any more phone calls. And if you get a phone call, most of your phone calls are to the point where you would just be like, okay, is this, are they supposed to be reunited? Like a reunification case. And if they say yes, my husband and I decided to say, nope, we're not going to do that. But it is very rare to find an infant or a toddler that is looking, that the state is looking for them to be adopted, and that is a straight adoption case. Most of the time it is a straight reunification case. A lot of times though, they start out that way and you get them and then they're with you for a year and it changes to adoption. So it's just a really tough process. You have to be very open, and I think that we've been so hurt, and so we've been through so much at that point that we weren't open to that. So we had to let our foster care group know that we were only open to straight adoption cases. And so then we actually picked an adoption group, and we were just paying in increments. We were making our adoption book and our birth mother letters, and I sent all that stuff, and at that point it was just a waiting game. And so I just was like, well, what are we gonna do? I'm like, I want to travel and I still want to get pregnant, but it's not fair for us to just sit here and wait for the phone to ring. So we had to, you know, you have to keep going. You have to live your day-to-day life. You have to work, and you know, you want your marriage to grow. So even though, you know, you're not growing in that way of having a family, you need to find other ways to make your marriage grow. And we definitely had some grieving to do together still. And so we started traveling a little bit, doing things that were out of the box, like go to Dave & Buster's. We went to a Sidekick, and it's just funny because she recommended that we travel. We took a trip to Traverse City, Michigan, and that was just beautiful. It was a lot of fun. It was freezing cold because we went in March, but we didn't want to go when it was really touristy. So it was just beautiful. It was not a lot of people there, and it was just a really, really nice time. So all in all, we were just living our lives to the fullest and just waiting for that phone call. Alrighty, join me next week to find out what happens. Don't forget to subscribe.